Every character, location, or experience you've read about in my crime fiction novels holds a piece of reality. I'm Helen Taylor. Welcome to the story behind my stories, the video podcast where crime fiction meets my authentic experience. Here, we delve into the real-life inspirations and intimate stories that shaped my novels. Discover how my everyday encounters, adventures, and travels translate into tales as gripping as they are genuine. The story behind my stories goes behind the words on the page to reveal the backstory that inspires my writing. Hit follow or subscribe and ensure you're part of this journey. Hi everybody, welcome to episode 6 of the story behind Leith Hill. So last week we talked about new team members and old team members. This time I want to bring it back to my personal experience and talk about another character in this book, which is a dog. So I grew up with horses, and my mum is a big cat person, so we always had cats when I was a kid. If you're a cat person, no offence to you, but I'm a dog person, 100% a dog person. And when I was very young, my mum's cat died, and my dad got her a puppy. And we went to pick the puppy, and we picked what was the runt of the litter that nobody else had picked. And the litter was, we are talking 50 years ago, so there weren't the sort of regulations or the thing about getting dogs spayed and stuff as it was in those days. And we picked this puppy and we called her Velvet because she was a velvet to the touch. And she was a Labrador cross boxer. And she became the pony that I couldn't have. So I used to set up show jumping courses in the garden and jump her over them, and she used to come later when I got my horse. She used to come with me out on rides, and she was my first dog, and she was my first experience of an animal who I connected with, because I didn't really with cats. I think it was when I was 12, I got a virus, and the only way I could breathe was sat up in bed, leant right over, and my mum took me to the doctor, and he put me on a nebulizer and diagnosed asthma, and it being due to animal fur. So then it was only then when I went off to uni and came back for one of the holidays that the asthma really flared up. So cats were really bad, dogs were really bad, and horses were really bad. So my dream then, when I was a kid, of being a vet, and I'd done a whole load of summer holidays working in veterinary surgery, so that they might let me in to do veterinary science without 3 straight A's, because at that time, was it All Creatures Great and Small? I think it was the vet show. Not a show like the Super Vet and stuff that is on nowadays, but it was a TV series starring a vet. And so many people wanted to be vets from watching that TV series that the requirements to get into veterinary science at uni had massively increased. And I knew academically I wasn't going to get 3 straight A's. So I had to look at something different. But once I developed an allergy, that was it. So I had a horse, I had a dog. When I got married in my early 20s, we got a rescue dog. And he was called Muttley. And he was a Labrador cross Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Was he a lab? Or boxer? Or Staffordshire Bull Terrier? Can't remember, but he was definitely a Staffs. And he was lovely. He was really, really lovely. And we pieced together in his life what must have happened for him to end up the way he was. So he used to bark and growl at men with sports bags on their shoulders if we were out for a walk and saw one. And it wasn't in an aggressive way, it was in a scared way. And he also used to, he was quite happy if me and my husband then, Dave, were affectionate to each other. But if we were affectionate to each other and one of us had a drink, he went the same way. We knew that he had come from a rescue home that had been in a tower of flats and that he hadn't got out a lot. And the first time we took him out, after we got him, we took him to Virginia Water, which is a part of the Crown Estate connected to Windsor Castle. And he just went loopy about water. He'd clearly never seen, there's a big lake, and he clearly had never seen it. And he was gorgeous. I loved him to bits. But we sort of pieced together, we thought that maybe the man came home from the gym or from work with his holdall after having had a few drinks and was aggressive to his partner. That's the only sort of scenario we could come up with and understand for Muttley's behaviour in those 2 situations. Otherwise, and even then, like I say, he was never aggressive. It was very much a fearful, protective sort of thing. So, going back again, when we had Velvet had 2 litters while we had her, and Dave, my boyfriend at the time, to be my husband, he had one of the puppies. And at the time he was a courier, so he was driving around a lot, and the dog, Risha, used to go with him to work and be his companion in the van. And one day, somebody stole her. It's a whole other story whether that's true, but that's what he told us. But that's something that might come up in next week's episode. But for now, you just need to know that Risha was also a dog in my life. And now, if you follow me on social media, No, I have Rupert. Rupert is a cockapoo and supposedly hypoallergenic, so I can have him without impacting my allergy, which is awesome. Um, he's a lovely, lovely dog. So, bringing it back to Leith Hill, there is a dog in Leith Hill. And she appears very early on. This is a spoiler alert that the start of the um, book, uh, when the bloodied man comes out of the woods, so the man stood in front of them, was in his early 40s, trousers torn and dirty, dark stained knees, blood on his hands, up his better arms to the sleeves of his polo shirt, drying already on the left-hand side of his face and on his collar. He pointed behind him into the woods and looked down at the leather strap he had in his hand. It too had blood on it. He shut his eyes with a moan. He stared at his hands, what they held, and looked to where he'd broken through. The wounded cry came again, silencing the chattering of those stood around, unaware of him. He raised his arm and whimpered, "Elsie," as he collapsed on the ground. Now, when Goodwin and Angela go into the woods searching for whatever created this man covered in blood, and they follow the path that he took coming out of the woods, they follow going back in. And when they get there, then when they get through to the crime scene, shall we say, she nodded and took off along the outer path while Goodwin, in long trousers and trainers, began forcing his way into the undergrowth. They kept calling out to each other, voices fading and returning as the path curved back toward him. Just as Goodwin reached what looked like the final overgrown stretch, Angela's voice rang out. "Stop! Stop there!" He froze. She was visible now, gesturing toward the gap he'd been aiming for. "Go further that way, don't eat this path." To shift direction, Goodwin stepped carefully into a dense bramble bush. He watched each footfall, pushing through the tangled, unyielding tendrils. No give, no softness, just clawing resistance. He could hear whimpering, but it wasn't coming from D.C. Phillips. The look on her face was anguish. Goodwin pushed through the final patch of brambles and joined her on the path. His expression twisted the moment he saw what she had. A woman lay lifeless on the ground. Beside her, a golden retriever, its pale coat soaked with blood, whimpered softly. The sound was uncannily like a baby's cry. Pain and confusion laced every note, pleading for help neither of them could give. So they've got to the dead body, and the woman's there, obviously dead, and the dog's laying next to her. And then the two of them, Goodwin and Angela, stood back from the body and the dog, hands on hips, staring, questioning. Angela broke the silence. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking about the dog?" "What?" "About why a dog that size, clearly devoted to its owner, didn't..." Stop the offender, Angela finished, stepping around Goodwin to get a better look. She peered at the retriever, scanning for wounds or fresh blood. There's no sign it was attacked, or part of the attack. They stood in quiet thought a moment longer, then began taping off the area, blocking the line from the tree to the car park, the same route the blood-covered man had taken. So, the dog does star in the next section a little bit, and pops up throughout the book. And the dog isn't hurt, never becomes hurt, is not party to any bad stuff. But I do understand dogs a little bit. When Rupert was just a year old, we started doing dog agility, and he absolutely loved it, and it was brilliant. But there was a lot of information I got about dog psychology, if you like, from doing that. Helga was our trainer, and she would explain things like where your feet point is where the dog will go. So you can't be pointing your feet over there when you want it to jump a fence there or run up a line there. And so through them, we actually also did a day course with Rupert of Surrey Search and Rescue, which was really good fun. And it was a real eye-opener when you see on the TV where for the dogs to find stuff, they're either trained for a specific thing like drugs or explosives or cadaver. But when they're searching for people, they don't sniff along the floor like you used to see in the movies and TV series. They actually sniff in a cone out from their nose, all around, and it's all the smells from that cone come in, and based on how far or close that smell is... Now, I'm no expert, I freely admit that. This is what was explained to us on the day, and my interpretation of that. So, but the great thing that we learned that day on Surrey Search and Rescue is that the dog doesn't necessarily smell the person's scent. They can smell the scent of fear or, being scared, which is... So a dog could find somebody, this is what they were explaining at Surrey Search and Rescue, purely by going out and searching for that scent of fear or even like pain, if they'd fallen down the edge of a cliff or something, or a hill or whatever, and hurt themselves, you give off a certain scent. And I guess it's similar with drugs or cadaver. There is a scent, and I guess it's similar when dogs are trained to recognise diabetes and epileptic fits, and they can warn their owners to eat or to sit down so that when they have the fit, they're not going to hurt themselves. So dogs' noses are amazing. They're absolutely amazing. Dogs are amazing, full stop, as far as I'm concerned. They truly are man's best friend. And I wanted a dog to feature in one of the books. And in this book, Elsie the dog features as man's best friend. She is there with that woman's body, protecting, holding, looking after, until somebody comes along that can do what she can't. We do talk a little bit about dog training slightly later in the book as a possibility for a certain scenario in the murder. But the majority is Elsie. I've never had a golden retriever at all, but I wanted the contrast of the blood, because for me Velvet was black, Muttley was black, but Rupert has a similar colour. He's an apricot, so it's a similar-ish colour to a Labrador, a golden retriever. And if you've seen in a couple of my posts about Leith or Leith Hill, there is a golden retriever in there. And a couple of the people I know dog walking have golden retrievers. So I wanted that contrast of the blood on their coat, and also not to be small like Rupert, but to be a heavyweight dog that you would question why the dog didn't intervene when she was being attacked. So yeah, dogs are amazing, and Rupert is, through COVID, before COVID, he was a pack dog, and we used to go to the local dementia home, and he would go around and see all of the residents there, and he loved it. He is very much a people dog, not a dog. So in the park, if he goes up to somebody, he will be going to the person, not the dog. He is a very sociable people dog, which is quite unusual, because I remember when me and Lauren went to choose him. Lauren had been wanting a dog, and I wasn't prepared to get a dog unless I was working from home. And I was at the time, but I knew that time was coming to an end. And so then she said she wanted a rabbit. And I said, well, you've got to go outside and feed the rabbit and clean it out. She goes, no, a house rabbit. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. And then Tracy, that worked for me at the time, said my friend's just had puppies. Well, not literally, not her friend, but her friend's dog had just had puppies. So I went and had a look sneakily, and then took Lauren the next day. And as soon as Lauren went, Rupert came up to her, and apparently she was the only person he ever went up to. He was really antisocial with the other puppies, and just kept himself to himself, and he was very unaffectionate. And they were slightly worried that they would never find anyone that would take him, because he was so standoffish, if you like. And I have never met a dog so affectionate. So whether that was living with us, or he just hadn't found his person. And I do think that the dog picks the owner. The owner doesn't pick the dog. That was what happened with Velvet. That was what happened with Muttley. And that's most definitely what happened with Rupert. And you know how much I love Rupert, because we drive to Crete so that he can come with us, because I won't put him on a plane. And he loves Crete, he loves the sand, he loves running around like a lunatic on the sand. So that's it for this week. I just wanted to give you a little taste of my background with dogs, as a dog is a key player in Leith or Leith Hill. And we will pick up next time the more psychological aspects and how my personal experience plays into relationships and secrets that come to light in Leith or Leith Hill. Because as you know, everything I write has some basis, more or less, apart from the crimes, in reality. Have a good week, and I will see you next week.